Well, hello again, everybody. I hope everybody's having a great evening out there tonight. This is Pucks from the Pine Tree Pod. I'm your host, Benjamin Kennedy. Thank you so much for joining us again this evening. We just got done watching a game in Quebec City. That's pretty cool, right? Be nice to see more of those. The LA Kings eviscerating the Boston Bruins tonight. I honestly can't even remember the final score. 4-1. It's not good. I think maybe the Kings had more goals than the Bruins had shots. I think the Bruins, I think maybe their sticks got caught up in customs and they, couldn't get them across the border. I don't know. Was not good. Thank God it's just a preseason game. So that's all good. But tonight, yes, this is October 3rd. So we've got to get to our official 2024-2025 NHL predictions. We're going to look at standings. We're going to look at playoffs, and I am going to make my official NHL Stanley Cup pick for the season. This has been hard. I have had note cards going and making different selections and crossing things out and throwing things away. And this has been tough. It's been a hard one this year. There's a lot of really great candidates. We're gonna kind of go 32 up to one here on the board, and not going to do a super deep dive into every team, but yeah. So here we go. Starting in the Atlantic Division, we are going to go eighth place in the Atlantic will be Montreal. I hope y'all can see that all right. Fix that there a little bit. Yeah, Montreal. I think, as I've said in the past, I think they're going to improve this year. I think they'll win a few more games. They'll have more points. I like the trajectory of the organization. I like how they're building. I don't see how they quite rise all that much though in the Atlantic. I think that some of those other teams that are out there building and growing as well. Um, I kind of feel like in the next couple, kind of 2 to 3 years, I can see this being a wild card type of team that kind of gets to that middle of the Atlantic area. We'll see how that goes. See how that goes. Into the Metro. In eighth place, we are going to have Columbus. Columbus. Yeah. Um, Heartbreak City, obviously, for this organization. I don't want to say that Johnny Gaudreau resonated like Kobe Bryant did, but I think in the hockey world, it kind of does, right? Such a tremendous loss. Johnny and his brother Matthew, and just the families and little kids. I mean, I'm 45. I have a 4-year-old. These guys had little babies. Like, it's just all the heartbreak. I quite honestly don't know how this team pulls it together this year. I really don't. I just don't. Uh, my heart will be cheering for Columbus this year. I hope that those men in the room can kind of rally around, Johnny Gaudreau, number 13, and rise up. Um, we'll see. Now, I do like the change on the bench with their new coach. I think there could be a difference there, but again, this is a Metro division that has a lot of veteran type teams, a lot of veteran players on those teams. And it was kind of a tough one for me to kind of sort through. I don't see again how they rise too far up that ladder this year. Off to the Central Division, we will have the Chicago Blackhawks at number eight. Again, a little bit like Montreal. I do think that Chicago is probably going to be harder to play against. I liked a lot of the things they did in the offseason. But yeah, they're still a couple years away. Um, I kind of played around with the idea of maybe Minnesota, being an eighth, but I think Chicago still has a ways to go. And I do think some of those veteran guys they picked up here in July might be out the door come January, February at the trade deadline. Yeah, let's move over to the Pacific, and it will be the San Jose Sharks. So yeah, getting Macklin Celebrini. Of course, they got Will Smith in tow. And again, they were another one of those teams that they picked up a few guys. July 1st, kind of opening of the season. Yeah, they're still a ways off. Be wildly interesting to see how Salabrini and Will Smith look this year. I think they have a couple really great building blocks for the future. I don't see them again doing a whole lot to rise up the standings this season, but they're on again the right path. Moving back to the Atlantic Division, and this is where it gets maybe a little bit interesting at seventh in the division. We're going with Ottawa, Ottawa Senators. Of course, old friend Linus Allmark up there. I just trust very little, quite honestly, about this team. I want to. I want to see them get better. They have Brady Kachuk. They have Tim Stutzla. I love Linus Allmark. I'm a huge Linus Allmark fan. I don't trust the defense at all. I'm not sure Trent Green is the right coach for that team. Listen, I Trent Green has forgotten more about hockey than I'll ever know. So who am I to be critical? I think there might have been better fits for what they have going on up there. Um, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. If you're an Ottawa fan, I'm sure you're hoping I'm wrong, and you can come back at me, March, April, and say, "Hey, you're an idiot and you're wrong." Great. I probably am. Uh, Metro Division number 7. We're gonna go the New York Islanders. Oh, yes. One of 3 teams I have that made the playoffs a year ago that will be out of the playoffs this year. Just extremely unimpressed with changes to the team. I thought that last year yes, they got to the playoffs. They got that 3rd position in the Metro. Um, I think it was a little bit of New Jersey with their injuries. Philly fell off late. Nobody else kind of grabbed it. The Islanders did. I just don't see enough there to see them work their way up this division this year. I just don't. Yes, Patrick Waugh's there. I know he's a good coach. I know he's a obviously legendary goaltender, but I have so many question marks about the Islanders, and that's why I have them in 7th position. Again, another fan base that probably won't be too happy to hear that, but listen, if I'm wrong, come at me. Come at me in March, April. Uh, let's move over to the Central Division in 7th place. I do have Minnesota. Minnesota Wild, of course. Minnesota, one of the hotbeds of hockey. They're still a couple years away, in my opinion. I think that they've got some pieces there. They're still dealing with just salary cap, just hell right now. They really are. Um, I have very little expectation for this team, and I think the fan base should just give it a minute. Just relax, rest. Try to build something this year. You've got some pieces. You have, of course, Kaprizov there. You've got Matt Boldy. You've got some guys. Um, you got to get that salary cap thing figured out. This might be the best division in the league this year, and maybe if you're in the Pacific, you have a better chance to get in. But you're in that Central Division with you're loaded, right? You're loaded. So, yeah, have them in 7th. Moving on to the Pacific, 7th place, we have the Calgary Flames. Yes, Calgary Flames. Kind of a full-on rebuild mode at this point for these guys. They still have a few veterans on the team. A lot of pride, I think, with those veterans. They're going to be active at the deadline. I kind of feel like Nazem Kadri will probably be dealt at some point this season. They do have some good young talent coming up through the system with the Wranglers. This is all by plan. This is all by plan for Calgary. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago that they were top of this division and thought to be a Stanley Cup champion, kind of contender. Yeah, we're a few years away from that now. So I think the expectations in Calgary should be very, very limited. Of course, we will see how it goes. Let's go back to The Atlantic. Mhm. And this is where I start to struggle a little bit because these teams just, you know, I could have gone two or three different ways here, but at number six, and this is gonna piss my sister off, and I apologize, but we're gonna go with the Buffalo Sabres at number six. I wanted to put them higher. I do. I did. Um, I think there's something there. You know, the young defensemen they have, they've got a core there. I love Tage Thompson. I love Darlene as the captain now. Um, Still think they're a couple years away to rising up. I do again think they outperform Ottawa, outperform Montreal. But what you have in front of you is pretty darn challenging, and points in this Atlantic division I think are going to be really, really difficult this year. So got them in sixth place. Going over to the Metro Division, sixth place. Also, probably going to piss a few people off with this one, but Pittsburgh Penguins finishing sixth and out of the playoffs. Aging team, Hall of Fame players all over the ice. Sydney had doesn't seem to age. Again, another one of these situations where I just don't see it. These guys this year, they've missed the last couple of years. They've been on the cusp the last couple of years. I don't really like what they did in the offseason. I don't think they really improved. I think that Dubas has kind of doubled down on what they have. I just don't think it works. I think once you get into January, they'll be trading off some of these pieces. You know, Kevin Hayes was like their big get. I love Kevin Hayes, but he doesn't really do a whole lot to, I think, elevate that room. Listen, Sid's going to be fine, but I don't see them getting back to the playoffs. I see them in that sixth position in the Metro. Moving over to the Central, again, very challenging when I looked at this one here, but I do have St. Louis in sixth. Man, I really fought this one. I really fought this one. Kind of had them fifth for a while. I kind of thought borderline wildcard team. This is a team I feel like will be a lot like last year, where they're going to maybe be at like 90 points, 91 points. They're going to miss the playoffs by like a point, just like they did a year ago. Part of what gives me pause with them is their defense. Have they done enough to improve it? I don't know. I think Bennington's going to be just fine. I like their top end talent, you know, with Robert Thomas, with Kyrou. I like what they did to Edmonton. I think the guys they picked up from Edmonton, I think they did a great job there. Um, if they don't make it this year, I think they're making it next year. Yeah, I kind of make that promise to y'all out there in St. Louis. Like, I think they're growing, they're ascending. You got Bannister now, first full year behind the bench for him. How does he build this up? Um, I think they're one of those kind of tweener teams that's right on the cusp. Kind of had them fifth for a little while. Now it's like sixth, fifth, sixth, maybe, you know, in the playoffs, maybe out of the playoffs. There was a tough one. It was a tough one. Um, Again, could be wrong, and I'd be very happy if I was wrong on that one because I kind of like a lot of the things that they've got going there, but they just have to show me a little bit more here this year. Pacific Division, let's go to number six, and on the rise, Anaheim Ducks. Anaheim Ducks. A team I think that in 3 to 4 years might be a little bit of a juggernaut for us to all deal with. Um, tons of young talent, and they are loaded, absolutely loaded with young stars. Um, just not going to happen this year, but I do think that they are starting to rise up the Pacific Division. I think they're going to be kind of a tough out. Early on last year, you know, October, November, they played really, really tough. Um, Love their coach. He's kind of hard nosed guy, old Boston guy. I love that. But yeah, this young talent is going to start to develop, start to grow. I love Dostell in net. Wonder what happens with John Gibson. Maybe they move him out, but Dostell, I think, is the future in that for them. they've got a ton of their core pieces for future kind of in place. And yes, don't have him in the playoffs. Frankie Vetrano, maybe a good trade piece for them at the deadline. Um, I'd love to see him in Boston again. I said that earlier this summer. Bring Frankie Vetrano back to Boston. That could be pretty cool. Um, but yeah, I think they're on the rise. I do, and I think that maybe next year at this time, maybe they're fifth or fourth in this division. I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be a house to deal with in the coming years. So fourth in the Atlantic Division, or no, I'm sorry, fifth in the Atlantic Division. We do have the Detroit Red Wings, original six team. Um, yeah, getting Patrick Kane back. They bring Tarasenko over. Of course, they brought over DeBrincat last year. A fairly a sound, solid offense. I like a lot of the pieces they have there. They do lose Gostisbehere in the offseason, but I like a lot of what they have. And Patrick Kane looks healthy. He just looks healthy. Wasn't sure last year what you would see from him. I think now with a full off season, him in camp there. Yeah, I think they're gonna be right there, and we'll get to our playoff piece of this in a moment. Yeah, I think they're in good shape. Metro Division. Uh-oh, I just dropped it. Hold on just a second, everybody. Oh, not good. Metro Division, fifth place, Philadelphia Flyers. So I do have them over Pittsburgh. Sorry, Pennsylvania. I do have Philly over your Sidney Crosby Pittsburgh Penguins there. But uh, yeah, I think Tortorella just gets a lot out of his guys. Just do. Um, Mitchkov looks like a beast, and I spoiler alert, I don't have them in the playoffs this year, um, but I do like Mitchkov. I like what Torts has got going there, and um, I think they're just going to be kind of that rugged type of team that's just going to spit at you and fight you and be a hard out, and they'll be right in the mix. Again, a little bit like St. Louis. I think they'll be kind of right around the wild card for a while. I do think they fall off end of the day. I do apologize to uh, Utah Hockey Club. I don't have your magnet yet, but I do have you fifth in the Central. This is my old Arizona uh, magnet, so I do apologize for that. Yeah, Utah. I think all the excitement for can we call them the Utah Yeti yet? I think the Yeti is going to be the name, but Utah Hockey Club. I think there's going to be just a wild fan base. I think they're going to be well received. I think it's going to be a great show, and they're fairly well loaded with some really good young talent. Like their off season this year, they got Sergachev, Marino, in town defensively. I like their goaltending. Of course, Keller is a great. Cooley's great. I think they've got some really good bones there to build off of, and I just think they're going to be so well received. They're going to pack that building out every night. Should be a lot of fun. Pacific Division, Seattle, Seattle Kraken, fifth place, playoff team a couple years ago. Um, Again, kind of on the cusp coming into this next year. I liked what they did in their off season, getting Montour from Florida and Chandler Stevenson there from Vegas. And they're another one of those teams I've kinda had on the cusp of maybe a wild card, maybe not. I think depending on how the puck kinda tips and balances, for them, they might be. They might fight for 3rd in this division. Stevenson and Montour, both Stanley Cup winning players, and plus they got the new coach, up there. They've got Jessica Campbell as their uh, first female assistant coach in the NHL, which I love that story. With Dan Blysma at the helm. Should be fun. They're one of those teams too. If they don't make it this year, I feel like they might start now to be able to build a foundation for the future. Um, What does Shane Wright do? Shane Wright is so interesting to me this year. Like, is he someone that makes the roster? Does he make an impact? I'm cheering for that. I'd love to see Shane Wright become like a big time player for them this year, or at least a regular player for them. Even if he's a third line guy and can get in there. I mean, I think he could be a 20 goal, 15 to 20 goal guy this year if he can play. We'll see how that goes. So we're about halfway through the board. I'm going to stop and have a little bit of a sippy sip here because it's Thursday night. I don't have my kid here, so we're gonna have a little sip. You know, just wet the throat a little bit. Fourth place in the Atlantic, we do have the Tampa Bay Lightning. So not moving up from a year ago, but still very much in that same kind of wild card kind of playoff spot where they were a year ago. So hard to count this team out with John Cooper, with the Vasi in the net. Yes, they lose Stamkos, they lose Sergachev, but they've got still so many just grade A players. They, of course, add Jake Gensel to the room this year. Just a hard team to count out, and they're going to be right around it again this year. This is where it gets interesting. This is where I um, made my notes, threw them away, made my notes again, ripped them up again. I've probably gone through this 3 or 4 times. Who is fourth in the Metro? Um, we've got Carolina. What? Carolina fourth? What? You have them falling 2 spots? Yeah, I do. I do. And I'm gonna go to bed tonight and I'm gonna think, oh, did I really rank them fourth? Rod Brindamore coach team, did I really rank them fourth? But yeah, I am. It's tough. It's tough. Um, I just think their losses catch up to them. I did their season preview earlier this evening, and there's still a lot of talent in the room. There's still a lot of talent on that team. Rod Brindamore is still a guy that's going to get every little bit out of his team. I just think they lost too much. I think Brady Shea, Pesci, Gensel, Nosen. I mean, you lost a lot of guys that were part. I know Gensel wasn't there long, but you lost a lot of that culture, especially defensively. And I do question, does their culture kind of change a little bit? Don Waddell's gone as well, their GM. He's gone. So what does that mean for the team? I have some concerns, and we know that the same 16 don't make it every year. I have some concerns about this team. Oh, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But going back to the Central Division, fourth place here, we have the Winnipeg Jets. Fall off a little bit from a year ago. Still have great goaltending. Still have a good core there. Scott Arnell, behind the helm. Of course, he's been there, so he knows the team. Um, I don't really feel like they're a fully legit, like, setting up, like, contender, but I think they're very much still in that playoff hunt and be right around that wild card. I mean, when you have a guy like Hellebuck in net and some of those, veteran fours they have, they're going to be right around it this season. And despite what we saw tonight in Quebec City with the LA Kings just being very, very rude to the Boston Bruins, they didn't even allow the Bruins to shoot the puck. Like, come on, like, Kings, you don't want to let the Bruins shoot the puck. It was just very rude. But I do have them fourth in the Pacific Division. I'm a little low on this team this year, guys. Of course, the Doughty injury just adds to it, but tons of questions in net. I just don't know if they have the goaltending they need. Um, they just seem to be this kind of stagnant type team where, yes, they've got these good veteran guys. We know Kempe, Kopitar, those types of guys. I love Byfield. How can you not like Byfield next tonight with a hat trick? Um, I just don't see enough there. I I just don't. I just don't. I think goaltending is going to be an issue. I think depth's going to be an issue, and they're going to miss Drew Doughty. Yes, I know they have some younger defensemen that can step up and have that opportunity. Um, Lots of question marks for me when it comes to LA. Back to the Atlantic, third place, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs. Same position they were a year ago. Yes, it's a little bit like a broken record. Did they make some moves this year? They sure did. New coach. Yes, love Craig Berube up there. I love the Chris Tanev signing for them. I think they have the potential maybe to be higher than this, but based on what we see in this division, I have him third. I think that Berube give him 2 or 3 years, allow some different moves to happen in this organization, maybe free up some cap to do some other things. I think the sky's the limit for this organization. Austin Matthews, obviously one of the very best in the league, but I do have them third. And what made the Metro so tough for me was the Washington Capitals. I do have them third over Carolina. Um, it was hard for me to look at a team that made the playoffs a year ago, make the moves they did, which I think were so many good positive moves. Matt Roy, Jacob Chikrin. Yes, Pierre-Luc Dubois, we know, he's a little bit of a lightning rod, but they improved their team drastically. Carolina did not improve their team drastically. So I do have Washington eking it out. It might be very, very close. I could see the Washington Carolina third, fourth battle being super, super close this year. Should be a lot of fun to watch. Um, I played through different scenarios where I had them out, but it was just hard. Like I think they're in. I think they're third in that division. I don't necessarily see them as a big time Stanley Cup contender, but I do think they beat out Carolina, get that third spot. And I think the OV watch will be on for sure. That's going to be so much fun to watch. I'm hoping he hits the record this year. It would just be so great to get into late February, early March, and to see the OV watch on. Well, let's all be cheering for that. Central Division, third place. We're gonna go up to the mountains in Denver. We got the Carolina, Colorado Avalanche, third place. Again, one of the best divisions, maybe the best division in the league. Colorado, you know, there was more like clarity around, Nichushkin and Landeskog right now. I'd probably have you first in this division. Like they're good enough with those two guys potentially being out for a significant time to still be second or third in the division. But without those guys, just not knowing, it's hard, right? So they were third, I believe, last season. I kind of have them in that same spot. I really, for these guys, I don't think it matters. Like they've won a Stanley Cup. McKinnon, McCarr, Rantanen, like this is a big time group. Um, they don't mind playing on the road. Um, I just don't really think it matters if they finish first or third. Obviously, you'd like to finish first, maybe get a wild card team, get a better matchup. But if you finish second, third, I don't really think it matters too much to this team. So much of this depends on the health of Landeskog. Can he come back? Does Nichushkin come back? Can he be effective and stay in the league? Man, the kid is so talented. And again, as I said in my Colorado preview just a couple days ago, you just hope that he's all right. You hope that he can figure this out for himself and be healthy. You just want to see that talent on the ice. We'll see how it goes. Number three in the Pacific, I do have the Vegas Golden Knights. Went back and forth on this one a little bit too. They had just an awful July, lost a lot of talent. But then if you rewind the clock, you realize the trade they made with San Jose, and Thomas Hurdle, and they bring in Hannafin. Like it's still a fairly talented team. And I am a Bruce Cassidy apologist. He's one of those coaches for me that just gets every little bit out of his team. Um, so I do think they beat LA. I think they beat out Seattle. I think it's going to be a battle. I mean, I think with Vegas, LA, Seattle, I might even think Anaheim might have something to say about this in that middle of that division this year. Should be interesting. I do think Vegas finds a way to eke it out. Um, I think as they get things going and get some of these players they brought in a year ago kind of roped in, um, and get them more into the culture, I think they're gonna be something to deal with. All right, we are going to go to the Atlantic Division. At this point, we're just going to put both teams up in each division because obviously we will know, who's missing. In the Atlantic, I do have the Florida Panthers number 2 and the Boston Bruins number 1. Yes, I know people are going to look behind me and see my big Boston Bruins banner. Say, "Well, you're just a Boston Bruins fan." Couple reasons for this, guys. I do think that Boston did get better in the offseason. And this is, of course, we're at October 3rd right now. Jeremy Swayman's still not signed. If we had more clarity around that, maybe I have a different opinion. But I love the Lindholm signing. I love the Zadorov signing. I love what they did there. Florida lost some players this year. They've also been partying all summer, and good for them. They should be. They partied. They have that cup. Good on them. They well deserved championship for them. The one thing with Florida, and you wonder this with any championship team, the hunger. Not to say that they're still not going to want to go recreate that and do that again, but it's that snowy night in January when you're playing in Edmonton or you're up in Winnipeg. Like, do you bring the same kind of effort after you've already won it, after you've already kind of reached the mountaintop? Where's your hunger? I do feel like a Matthew Kachuk type of team. He's going to keep these guys motivated. Um, but I do think that there was some losses in the room. I just do. And I think that Boston, having lost the last couple of years, they're going to be a little more motivated. This ranking is, of course, assuming that Jeremy Swayman is going to sign. I still think he does. I still think we're right around an 8 times 8 for Jeremy. So that's kind of where I have that Atlantic division. Moving on to the Metro. We are going to start with returning to the playoffs. The New Jersey Devils, one of the most improved teams from year to year, not just with the people they brought in, the players they brought in, but Dougie Hamilton being healthy. Man, if you can keep him healthy, with what you brought in with Pesci, with Dylan, with that with Markstrom, keep Jack Hughes healthy. Oh, dear Lord, keep Jack Hughes healthy. Um, yeah, we'll talk more about New Jersey later. And of course, that means I have the New York Rangers, the President's Trophy from a year ago, back at the top of the Metro. You got the Igor in a contract year, best goal in the league. He's going to be hungry, veteran led team. A lot of hungry veterans there. Should be a lot of fun to see what they have in store. Moving on to the Central, another one of the most improved teams in the Central, the Nashville Predators. I do have them getting that second spot. But Steven Stamkos, I know the other players they brought in should be a heck of a team to watch. Lovely culture there in Nashville. If you ever have a chance to go to a game in Nashville, highly recommend it. It is, yes, they're in the South, but it's an electric atmosphere when you go to a game there. So I do think what they did in the offseason was amazing. Barry Trotz has a vision. They went out and spent all the money. Playoff team from a year ago, and they just improved themselves. They've made a commitment to UC Saros and net. So he has clarity around where he's at in his career. Good on Nashville. And of course, that means we do have uh, Dallas, top of the Central Division. Talk a little bit more about them here in a moment. Moving on to the Pacific. You have a little bit of a shift. We're going to put Vancouver Canucks number 2, leading to Edmonton, top of the Pacific. I think with Vancouver, it's so much about Patrick Demko. Where in the world is he? Where's his health? How's he going to hold up? where's that roster this year? We know the transition they had with, players leaving to Boston and Boston players coming over with guys like DeBrusk and Heinen and Forbert. Are they better than they were a year ago? Yeah, we knew that Lindholm and Sidorov were kind of semi-rentals. We knew that the balance of probability is they weren't going to re-sign those guys. Can DeBrusk be a 30-goal guy? I've already kind of said I feel like he can be, and I still feel like they're a second place team and a playoff team, very much a very solid playoff team this season with what they have in that room. But it's Thatcher Demko situation, man. If Demko is going to miss significant time, I might have them third. I might have them more in a playoff type situation. Um, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Uh, with Edmonton, of course, I just think they're the best team in this division. I think they're fairly clear cut. I don't think they have the slow start they had a year ago. I think that Connor McDavid, Draisaitl, that group looks at how they started last season and where they ended up. Like they're not going to get up to that start again. I'll be absolutely shocked if they do. So I think they kind of hit the ground running. I think they're pissed. I think they're ready to go, and I think they're I'm not necessarily going to run away with the Pacific, but I think they're going to be a clear cut, just mark it down, win the Pacific, and go from there. So that's kind of how I have the board laid out. Talking about what I see in this division, I do have, of course, as we know, we have the top three that make it in. Um, who do I have as wild cards, though? That's interesting, right? I do feel like we've got in the East. I'm going to pull off Tampa Bay. First wild card, Tampa Bay. Yeah, again, just hard to vote against Fasti and Braden Point and Gensel and all the guys they have there. Victor Hedman and John Cooper is still one of the best coaches in the league this season, and have been for a few seasons, of course. So hard to vote against him and against that team. The second wild card was really where I struggled because when you have Washington third and Carolina fourth, maybe a lot of people think, well, you have Carolina in. Um, I don't. I don't. I finally have an original six. Detroit. We're gonna get in this year, boys. We're gonna get in this year. You're gonna get that second wild card. I think the Detroit Red Wings finally cross that hump. Patrick Kane reignites himself a little bit and gets back in to the playoffs. So I have five out of that Atlantic Division. And what does that mean, guys? It means I have Carolina Hurricanes missing the playoffs. I do. I just do. I fought this. I thought about it all summer. I saw the turnover on the roster, and it just became harder and harder for me to keep them in. Um, I think if they get in, they're gonna have to battle Washington. They're gonna have to beat them up, and maybe they do. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Washington finishes fourth, and maybe I get this one wrong. But I know that not many voices out there are having Carolina miss the playoffs this year. But yeah, I kind of have them out. Have them out. So I have Boston and the New York Rangers winning those divisions with Tampa and Detroit in. Moving over to the West, we will take a look here. We've got the Winnipeg Jets. So first wild card coming out of the West. Oops, dropping a couple of spots. Hold crazy. Sorry about that. Boom. Winnipeg Jets. First wild card. They were second in the division a year ago, so I do have them falling back a little bit, but still in the playoffs. And very much like I have in the Atlantic, I do have five coming out of the Central. So that means that your LA Kings not making the playoffs. I do have, sorry, again, it's going to say Arizona, but y'all know what I mean. Utah Hockey Club. I think they get in. This is another really, really tough one. I had St. Louis, I had LA, I thought about Seattle. So many different teams I could have thought about there, but I do have the Utah Hockey Club getting in as that eighth wild card. So yes, that means we have a 5-3 and a 5-3 in each division or each conference, I should say. And you have three teams out that were in a year ago. That means the New York Islanders are out, Carolina Hurricanes out, LA Kings out, with Detroit Red Wings in, New Jersey Devils in, and of course the Utah Hockey Club in this year. So, what does that mean now for our final four? What do we have, guys? What are we looking at? And this took me a little bit. Um, I do have Boston and oop, I'm sorry, this isn't a little bit more easy to pull these off the board, but your Eastern Conference final. Boop. New Jersey versus Boston. I think this could be a very interesting matchup. I went back and forth through New Jersey and the New York Rangers. I feel like that's going to be the series we get before the Eastern Conference Finals. And I look at a veteran team with a veteran goalie in the Rangers with a very fast, very hungry team in New Jersey. And I just think that New Jersey, a couple years ago, they really elevated, had their injuries a year ago. And I think they've, with the additions they've made, new coach, I do think Sheldon Keefe has probably learned a couple things from his time in Toronto. I really like a lot of what New Jersey has this year, and I actually have them beating Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, and the New Jersey Devils will be your Eastern Conference champions. I know I'm a Boston fan. I think that Boston's a couple years away. I do. I think that in a year from now, with some of the changes they've made, maybe Boston's in a better space to get there. I think the Jeremy Swayman thing is a little bit problematic right now. We'll see where that goes, but I do have the New Jersey Devils elevating all the way from not making the playoffs to winning the East this year, and again beating the Rangers in that Eastern Conference Final in a kind of a grit versus speed situation. And I do think that the Devils actually are a bit grittier than they had been in the past with some of the defensive players they brought in. And then again, this is assuming that everybody stays relatively healthy. This means that Jack Hughes is healthy. That means that Mercer is healthy. That means that Markstrom stays healthy. Our defense stays healthy. Guys like Dougie Hamilton and Pesci and all those types of guys that are staying healthy and not getting it done. But I like a lot of what they have going on there, and this might be the last kind of hurrah for the Rangers. Like, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's go out west. What do we have? What do we have, guys? I do have kind of chalk out here. We're gonna go with Dallas and the Edmonton Oilers in a rematch of the Western Conference Final a year ago. Edmonton obviously very hungry. Dallas also hungry, feeling like they left a little bit on the table. And this year, guys, I do have the Dallas Stars. Oops, the Dallas Stars. Sorry about that, guys. It's late. I'm sorry. Dallas Stars winning the Western Conference Championship. So we have got a East versus West, New Jersey versus Dallas final. Could be a heck of a series if that happens. And I do actually have the Dallas Stars Funk as my official NHL Stanley Cup pick for the 2024-2025 season. I just think they're absolutely loaded. I think they've been on the verge of this for 2 or 3 seasons. And yeah, we'll see how this goes. But I like a lot of what they have. Yes, they lost Hannah, they lost a couple of pieces, but I think all the talents in the room, I think they're hungry and ready to go. I didn't want to wear the Dallas hat to give it away. I did wear my Maine Mariners hat, similar colors, so maybe that gave it away a little bit. But yeah, we've got um, Dallas Stars over the New Jersey Devils in the Stanley Cup Final for 2024-2025. Um, anyway, that is my kind of recap of what I think is going to happen this year. Thank you guys for watching tonight. I do appreciate it. Try to have a little more fun with this one tonight. Um, so hope you all enjoyed it. And yes, again, we've got the season kicking off tomorrow with New Jersey and Buffalo playing in Prague tomorrow on October 4th. So can't wait for that. Well, thank you all so much for watching tonight. If you do like what you're hearing, what you're seeing, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And until next time, be kind, show love, and God bless.